Hey, everybody. Today, I want to welcome you to a new episode of the New Hollywood Podcast. We are in for a treat. We have Fam Mirza in the studio with us today in Hollywood. He's an amazing fit for the show. He's an entrepreneur across both tech, retail, fashion, and music. He's done some amazing things, from starting One Face Watch movement, which benefited tons of NGOs. He's been a part of 2 recent IPOs for companies that he's invested in. He made his first $1 million before he was 21 years old, which is a trip. He's also, like me, a fellow advocate for the water pick, which is not a paid endorsement right now. And that's how we initially bonded. Big thanks to my friend Nathan Ortega with Influencer Podcast for setting us up. So Fam, where I like to start off with everybody is, how did you get started? Where are you from? Like, what's your story that got you into doing business?
First of all, the water pick changed your life?
Water pick changed my life.
Woo! Water pick changes lives, folks. How did I get started? So, born in Qatar, Doha, Qatar. Lived in the slums of like India for like 8 years with my aunt. Moved back. I didn't even meet my parents till I was like 8 years old, right? Then I moved back to Qatar. Then we moved to like Saudi. Then we moved to London. Then we moved to America. And I started my first business when I was 14. And that was the split jerseys. If you remember that split jersey trend, all the jerseys, every rapper was wearing it. Then the throwback Mitchell and Ness, so on and so forth.
Yeah, the half and halves.
Yeah, that was us. Okay. Super Bowl halftime show. So that was the first one. So after that, we just segued into different, the jersey thing was a trend, right? I always saw it as a trend because I felt coming from the fashion side. If you see some of my photos when I'm a kid, my aunts used to dress me in different clothing every single day. Every single day I would have a new outfit on. So I think it's where I kind of get like the fashion sense or whatnot. But when we did the jerseys was very interesting. But as a fashion play, it was okay, but I always saw it as a trend, right? And I think that's one thing in business. You have to recognize trends and you have to recognize what's going to stick for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. There's a huge difference between like a legacy brand and there's a huge difference between a trend, right? Like a fidget spinner. Like people actually thought that shit was going to, I don't know.
But if you get it at the right time, you can make your money real quick.
Nobody made any fucking money off the fidget spinner. Where are these cameras at? Nobody made any money off the fidget spinners. You know why?
Why not?
Because there was no brand behind it. It was literally just a white label design that came out of China. So he was selling it. Everybody was selling it. So what? You move a mass quantity, and yeah, maybe you make a few $1,000s here and there. But as far as like, there's
no proprietary value.
There's no proprietary value. There was not a lot of money to be made. If you look at Toys R Us went out of business, which I'm extremely sad about. But if you look at some of their like balance sheets and stuff like about inventory, fidget spinners was one of their biggest hits that they've ever taken on the sheet. Toys R Us was losing $56 million a quarter before they filed, which was insanity. I read that story and I was like, wow, like nobody came in to stop the bleeding. This went on for 3 years. You know how much money that is when it adds up?
Compounds like crazy.
That's a massive amount of money, and nobody came. Nobody did anything about it. But yeah, man. So like after the jerseys, we segued into a lot of different businesses. We started CMG, custom made gear. We started AF1s. I was the largest. This is an interesting story. I was the largest importer of Nike goods within the United States without a license. I was sued for $10 million. This is still is actually still online. It's one of the biggest like federal cases right at my house.
How old were you?
At this point in time, how old was I? I was 19, 20. Mm-hmm.
That's a trip for a 19-year-old to be sued for $10 million.
$10 million. I actually have it framed in the office because people were like, what? That's not true. I was like, there's a docket papers right there. Yeah. They raided my house. It was very strange. I was like, why would I keep the shoes in my house out of all the places in the world?
Especially at that many amount of shoes.
Yeah. But I was facing criminal charges, but we settled. And, it's a wrap on that one. But yeah. So we went on after AF1s, man. We've had so many different projects, It's just about, I think when creating businesses, it's all about like creativity and what inspires you today, It's about finding your passion. So Here's a funny one, right? You remember that guy, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife?
Antoine Dodson.
Antoine Dodson comes out. I'm sitting at the table with some of my friends, and my friend is like, man, so what are you going to be for Halloween? I was like, God, I don't know, bro. I don't even dress up for Halloween. He's like, I'm going to be Antoine Dodson. I was like, who the fuck is that? He's like, check out this guy. He's going viral. So I'm watching this video. And at this point in time, I think the video was only at like a few million views, right? And I was like, wow. And he's like, I bet you could do something with that. I bet you could probably brand that. And we decided to make this costume. This costume was the #1 costume of 2010. It was voted by TMZ, did a 1:30 skit on it. It's still online on those site, betintrudercostume.com, folks, if you want to buy one, collector's edition. Yeah, so.
I love the plug.
Love the plug. No, it's just such a funny site.
No, it's too funny.
It's a hilarious site because we made it, think about it, 2010 and where design was then. And it's just a funny looking site. But it got to a point where we had only produced 25,000 units, right? Because I had to nail my demand elasticity. Like I had to figure out exactly how many units we were going to sell and at what price. So we produced 25,000 units. It just keeps selling because the press won't stop. TMZ comes out, Fox News comes out, ABC comes out, CNN comes out strong. And I was like, shit, we're out of costumes. I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I was like, yo, raise the price. Like, fuck the demand elasticity. Let's go to $100. People are still buying it. I was like, let's go to $150. People are still buying it. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? So I actually contacted some of these people. I started emailing them. I was like, hey, I'm the CEO. Why are you still buying this? What is going on? Why are you still buying this costume for $150? And they're like, oh man, it's a collector's edition. He autographed a piece of paper that's inside of it. And I was like, wow. I still remember Antoine sitting there just signing paper. I just had him signing like white pieces of paper because he had that newspaper in his hand.
Yeah.
I just had him signing like these white pieces of paper. He like, hey man, come on, my hands are getting tired. I was like, bro, just do a few more. And then his hands got so tired, we just started photocopying them. 1.4 million in under 26 days.
For a costume.
From the time that the domain was registered to the time it was executed. And that's called execution, Some of those nights were sleepless nights because I had to go through so many prototypes in order to get to the final one because he has a very particular type of hair. It's not like you can just get any, quality is a thing. It's not like you can just get any wig and just put it in the thing or whatever, put it in the costume. So we had to just source and source and source. So we went through like 28 different types of wigs in order to land on that last one.
So are you sourcing through like China, I assume?
Yeah, I have sourcing agents that I work with for like 15 years.
That's a trip, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes that level of attention to detail to make sure that it actually works. Because if you do a half-assed idea, it's not going to land.
It's not going to land.
And it's all those little details. Like you said, the website has a funny look to it. All those little things like the UX and the UI behind a website, the psychographics that go into how somebody like buys something.
Yeah.
It's a very accurate science. Your eye goes to certain pages when you're looking at a phone or at a computer.
You better be running that crazy egg.
Yeah.
You better be running those heat maps. You better know where the user is clicking at. But what's interesting about that site is that it's still up and we still go back to it. I've never changed the UX UI on it because I'm like, wow, if we were doing design work like this back in the day, that's dope. Like it's a very easy UX UI to use.
I mean, it's also a testament to what works doesn't necessarily change. People are only so many different types of ways. There's only so many different types of people. You just got to identify the right types of consumer persona types.
Exactly. People are still confused about why Craigslist looks the way it does. I'm like, it's the most simplest website to use. That's why. Because the people who use it are not they're not accustomed to the internet on the level that me and you might be. Like Bob is living in Middleton, Ohio. He's using it. He thinks it's the easiest site to use. And also their demo is skewed towards the older demo. So when we talk about the older demo, obviously it has to be like just cut and paste type shit. I still have my aunts and uncles that don't know how to use email. I'm like, what is going on today?
Low involvement decisions. That's the key to a lot of business. A lot of people make their business so intricate that the consumer has difficulty signing up or buying the product.
Yeah.
Whereas you got to make it super easy for you to put your credit card in and it gets shipped to you. That's it.
Exactly, dude. That's where Amazon wins. That's where Shopify wins.
It's a seamless checkout.
Seamless. So simple. It's all about making it. It's all about making it convenient for the consumer. I mean, that's how you win. That's the main thing of any platform. Any platform.
No, that's super key. So how did One Face's watches come about? Because it's such a genius idea, and I've seen it with tons of other watch companies after you did it. How do you kind of like get into that market, and how do you figure out like the branding behind that?
I mean, One Face was an interesting story. One Face is interesting because I've always wanted to do a charity brand. Like out of all these brands that we've had, I've always wanted to do a charity brand. So I've came up with so many. I actually have like a book full of them, a journal full of them, and some of them. One of them was like percent, and we were gonna donate like 99% of proceeds to charity, and then we were like, oh shit, wait, we can't operate on the 1%, so it doesn't make any sense. So go back to the drawing board. One Face was interesting because it's actually the watch design that brought it together, right? When you take a look in that watch, right, it's your face looking back at you. And that's kind of where the branding inspiration came from. I was like, when I look at my face, like, what do I think about myself? What do I want to do? What kind of change do I want to make in the world? And that's how that charity aspect came about. And then obviously Live Strong doing what it did, the type of numbers that it did, we saw that. And because of the band being silicone, we changed, those bands represented different causes. And that was why. And that's kind of how it came about. And then when we partnered with the charities, I was like, we have to create some type of system, because most people will ask, if I donate $1, what happened with that dollar? Where did it go and what did it build? Right? Yeah. So we met with like American Cancer Society, and we met with the Adventure Project, so on and so forth. I was like, if I give you $1, what will happen today? Tell me the truth about that. And they're like, oh, some of them didn't even have it. And I was like, I need a metric system as to figure out what's going to happen. So when we said one watch fed 16 children in the Horn of Africa, that was a fact. When we said one watch provided water for 4 people, that was a fact. And then we had it broken down of how exactly that worked, right?
And that's a very key differentiator, because a lot of people say they're affiliated with a charity, but even if you look at charities' books, a lot of them are 60, 70% overhead.
Yeah.
And 30% goes to the charity. And like, for me, that's one of the biggest factors for me. A lot of people hit me up and they come with, well, this is for charity. I'm like, listen, I produced a lot of events over my period of time.
Yeah.
A lot of people do, it's a charity to get the cops off their back for permitting and legal purposes, and it's a little bit of a tax write-off. But at the end of the day, the fine print is it's 10% goes to a charity. Yeah. And, I grew up from first-generation immigrant parents without much money, and I know what it's like to be in need, and I have relatives in third world countries. So I think it's really admirable that you took the attention to ask people for those little details, because if you're going to your fan base or if you're marketing something online, there's always going to be somebody that's going to do a little bit of a fact check, and your numbers have to be accurate.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it broke down to the level that we got to a point where we actually went to Africa. We went to India, right? Because we had to see exactly how these projects broke down. And we wanted to provide a sustainable environment, right? So what Tom's did, for example, was Tom's went somewhere and they would give you shoes and then they left and then the shoes broke and then now what? It was a now what type scenario. I don't deal with now what type scenarios, So we created a sustainable environment. When let's say we built a greenhouse in Africa, right? So we go to Africa, we build this greenhouse, and we provide knowledge to the people of this tribe or the people of this village on how to sustain that greenhouse. So when we leave, you will be okay, right? That's what it's about. It's about providing that knowledge, right? You teach a man to fish, he eats a lot of fish. Give a man a fish, probably gonna be hungry tomorrow. Same
Very
theory.
true.
Yeah, so it was one of those.
That's a trip, dude. So after you set all of that up, you built up a couple of businesses, you're an investor. And that's where a lot of people don't get. A lot of people think of money as linear. They view it as you go to work, you get a guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks. But really, the way to stack wealth is through investing in the right businesses.
Yeah.
How do you go about identifying a good business to invest into?
You go about identifying, the culture of any company, the team of any company. I always speak on that, right? I always invest in the team. Your idea might be the greatest idea in the world, but if you actually don't understand the idea, or if your work processes don't trickle down, or if your culture doesn't trickle down, or if your strategies don't trickle down, if your communication isn't there, if your work processes aren't there, and you're not using the right tools, then it's not a scalable business. Regardless of what happens, at some point in time, you'll lose. I don't know whether it's going to be today, but it might be a week from now. And I don't want to be on that team.
That's super key. I mean, the thing I tell everybody is I'm in a lot of sexy business. I'm in a lot of entertainment related ventures. The real money and the people that are ridiculously wealthy are selling basic functional things that slightly improve people's days, or investing in basic level economies, real estate, brick and mortar, building, construction.
I mean, you know when you know, right? Like dude, you know, Jesus Christ. Like just yesterday, I was probably pitched at least like 12 to 14 times, right? And pitched so much shit. And I sometimes I take a look at people, I was like, your pitch deck is horrible. I was like, you're pitching me to get, let's say $1 million, $2 million, and your pitch deck looks like trash. That you couldn't even do that. Like not even the pitch went well. So what the fuck makes me think that the rest of it is gonna go well? The rest of it is gonna go terrible.
Also, a lot of times people don't invest in any of their pitch materials.
Yeah.
And they show up looking haphazard.
It blows my mind. I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, you know?
Okay, so I think a lot of people know what's right to do in a pitch deck. What are your biggest turnoffs when people pitch you? Because that's the thing that a lot of people don't get.
Oh my God. Jesus. Here's a question. My biggest turnoffs, right? When somebody pitches me is they'll start like this. Yeah, man. So we're getting into this industry, right? We're selling sex dildos and it's like a $4 billion industry. Who the fuck you think I give a fuck about a $4 billion? Okay, what does that mean? Like, I don't even care about that. Like, tell me how you're gonna like approach the industry. Give me the breakdown of how you will corner the market or take market share away from the biggest players. Present the biggest players to me, present their strategies, then present how your strategies are better than their strategies and what the CPL costs are of whatever it is that you're doing and how that's gonna work. That's a pitch, right? This is why I will win because I will do this. It's as simple as that. It's not about
data.
The actual data. Yes, give me the actual data. Give me what the assets look like. Give me who's creating the assets. Give me the cost on those assets. Give me the CPLs. Give me the CPAs. Give me all of that. Now we're talking about a real pitch. That's a real pitch. Not, hey man, like this might happen if we take over. Like this industry is huge. Like, you know, just vague. When you're doing a pitch, man, nothing is fucking vague. Data is everything. Big data is everything. Right? Anything we do, especially today, today's just 2018, especially today, everything is based on data. And that's it. This is about a big data play. We're trying to acquire this app right now. This kid wants $5.7 million. He's one of the top, we just acquired pregs.com. He wants $5.7 million. He's one of the top pregnancy apps in the App Store. He might be number 1 or number 2. And I'm like, listen, I don't even need the app I can build out. I have a team that can build out, the dev shop that could build this out. I need the data. You have 18 million people that downloaded this. He has access to 18 million kids of different ages.
Do you know how much information is on a phone that gets captured by every app on your phone?
Mm-hmm. That's what we need. I was like, dude, keep your app. I'll give you $1 million. Give me your data.
A lot of people undervalue what the data is actually worth.
People don't even understand it, man.
That's what makes Facebook worth the amount of money that it's worth.
Oh my God, Ash. I'm reading. So Vice does this article, right? And Vice does this article, I think it came out probably last week. It's a 72-page article. It's the longest article that Vice has ever done. And it's on Facebook. Do you know what Facebook's number one problem is?
What's their number one problem?
It's moderating over 2 billion people. Think about that. Like, I just want to take a minute.
That's a serious problem because regardless of how many people you have on staff, that's a lot of content per second that you need to be moderating.
Per second.
Like the fake news possibility, the link bait, the traffic, the weird stuff that you can find on Facebook. Like if you're in a lot of these large Facebook groups, there's very weird things that people push across Facebook. People click on the long thing and it ends up bringing them to weird places.
It made me, when I read that, and it took so long, it probably took me like 3-4 hours to analyze this whole thing. And I was like, wow, like that's a hell of a problem. Like Sheryl Sandberg has a hell of a problem on her hands. She's talking about, she's like, as soon as Trump won the election, she's like, everybody just kept putting anuses on Donald Trump's lips. She's like, all we had was like, you know what I mean? His lips just look like an asshole. And people are just putting this shit up. She's like, that's one of the big issues that we had. Just like blocking it. So they have systems in place. They have algorithms that can read pixels on the photos, kind of like the Let Go algorithm, for example, that can read pixels on a photo and it blocks it. But sometimes it doesn't block, it's algorithm's algorithm. So sometimes it doesn't block it and it goes through. That's their biggest problem.
Do you know what else is crazy about that? Is I watched a documentary recently about the people that do content filtering. They have physical people at the Facebook campuses that are siloed off, that are contractors, that are not like full-time employees. Mm-hmm. A lot of them can't finish their full-time contract at Google either when they get hired by Google to go through image searches.
Yeah.
They just see so much fucked up shit that they end up like in post-traumatic stress from just seeing the worst of humanity.
Wow.
And that's what's really interesting is the internet has given a lot of people an opportunity to be successful and build things, but it's also perverted by a lot of people and human nature doing the worst of things and putting it out there for other people to see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you a real fucked up story. So we when we did One Face, right? One Face Watch obviously was the first domain we bought. Go to this website, oneface.com. One is the number face.com. This is back, 2013? And it was a child pornography site. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, this is ridiculous, right? I'm like, no, this has to come. Like, I don't even want to go through what images I saw, but they were horrendous images. But I was like, this has to come down. Like, give this guy whatever amount of money he wants to take this down. So the guy doesn't want to sell the domain. He's like living in like Nigeria. I was like, this is child pornography. Like, are you crazy? So I was like, listen, if you want more money for your domain, whatever, it'd probably be helpful if you were to take the child pornography down and then try to sell the domain. And he took it down, and then we bought the domain. And I still remember that. I was like, this is so strange. This type of stuff that I saw on that site, it was horrendous. Like, I didn't even want my team to see it. I was like, please don't look at the site.
No, it's shocking the things that still go on in like 2018. Do you know what the value of a person is that gets sold into human slavery for the rest of their life?
I actually don't.
I watched a documentary, my friend made it, about women in Asia and India and the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And the average price of a person for the rest of their human life is $200. Which is so crazy to me because I've had meals that I've taken friends to and I've covered the bill for dinner.
Yeah.
And it's more than $200.
Yeah.
So the fact that there are people today that their life is worth less than $200 in retail is such a testament to the atrocities that go on in today's modern economy. Whereas that person doing pretty much anything for a month would make more than $200.
It's such a testament to like where we are at now, like the present moment, like where we are at now, like people are not grateful for what they have. And that just blows my mind because I'm like, today is a miracle. Listen, the average human only lives 26,000 days, right? The average human only lives 26,000 days. Like, welcome to today. This is it. What you choose to do with your day, that's what counts. And if you choose not to create something which benefits humanity and you choose to, just side-eye some of these things and you're not grateful for what you have, it doesn't make any sense. I'll tell you this, man. There's a saying that goes, success, right? In order to be successful in life, the first 3 hours of your day will determine your life. So if that's the case, then I would argue that the first hour of your day will determine your day.
I'd agree with that. I've changed my habits over the past 3 months to investing in myself for the first 2 hours of every morning. I wake up earlier. I go to the gym. I meditate. I don't look at my emails. I don't look at my phone.
I turn this phone off when I go to sleep, and this phone doesn't turn back on until 2 hours after I've woken up. Or Zayd knows.
You're a better human being.
Dude,
you're less anxious.
You unplug. When this thing turns off, I feel the waves turn off. Because here's a very interesting theory. I forgot what interview I was doing, and they were like, what the fuck? I would argue when Stephen Hawking died, and he said the ways that the world was going to end, right? Stephen Hawking described, he said it wasn't going to be from a meteor. He's like, it might be from global warming, but I don't know. But that would be my number one thing. I would say this would be my number one thing. I would say because energy is neither created nor destroyed, it is only transferred, meaning that everything, you are just a piece of energy. You're a bunch of atoms that have been put together that are moving at a particular rate to create you, right? This thing is shooting different waves off than whatever atoms are moving inside your body. And I would argue that this will get to such an intense level. There will be so many towers around here that those waves will initially end up killing a part of humanity.
I mean, at the core level of what we are light and vibrations.
Right.
And this is also providing different vibrations that are
This is vibrating at a different rate.
At a different frequency. And what's gnarly about it is I read a psychological study is that kids under 25, if their phone isn't working or if it's broken or if it's off, it's like they're physically missing a piece of their brain. Their cognitive ability is significantly reduced.
You're missing a piece of your body. Like humans are already now cyborgs. You are part cyborg, right? Because if you were to leave this phone at your house and you were late to work, you're running late to work, no matter how late you are, you will turn that car around to go get this phone and be extremely late to work. You are part cyborg. You cannot live without this phone, right? People don't even know how to react. We're actually doing a movie on this. It's one of the big projects that I'm doing right now.
It's so true. It's so
What will happen if you don't have your phone for a week? I would love to know. What would happen to the stockbroker in New York? I would love to know what would happen to one of these Instagram chicks in LA. I would love to know what would happen to different people in different forms of life.
I forced myself to take a week off of it and people had anxiety attacks. Like the thing for me is I'm very high touch. So I get anywhere between 350 to 400 text messages per day, 50 to 75 Instagram DMs per day.
It's terrible.
And like thousands of emails over the course of a week. The thing I've realized is a lot of this shit doesn't matter. It's worthless conversations. Worthless meaning. And most people just want to get stuff and they don't want to put in any work. So now I've started realizing like one of my biggest things is I come from nothing and I care about giving a lot. I was very motivated by Ryan Blair's story of nothing to lose. I interviewed him when I was working with Yahoo. So every time somebody reached out to me for advice, I'd always take the time to invest in them. And the thing I started doing recently, I'm sure you probably have been doing this for a while, is now I qualify people. I'm like, okay, you want me to help you at something? I'm going to give you 3 tasks that I want you to try and accomplish. Change your resume, change a couple of these things, and try these 3 actionable steps. And if you do that, then I'll help you.
Yeah.
And what's so funny to me, 80% of those people disappear.
Yeah, man.
Upon qualification.
People don't want to do the work, you know? The type of grueling stuff that we make some of these people go through that pitch us all Zaid knows, that pitch us all the time and they want to come work for us. We give them so many forms to go through and just say weird, ridiculous things. You know? It's because they won't go through all those tasks. You know, a dog can jump through like 1-2 hoops. Sometimes it gets really hard for dogs to like jump through the 6th, 7th hoop. Right? And they're like lost. And now they're just like fuck this, I'm out. So like that's the thing, and I think that's really like how you build a team, a powerful team, a team that's about it, a team that's about those 18-hour days. Because without that, you don't succeed in life. Without that, you don't succeed.
It's what you're willing to sacrifice versus what everybody else is willing to put in.
This is just about time, right? Success. This is initially what success is. Success is time blocking, time management. That's it. You have to manage your time. If you know how to manage your time properly, have the right conversations in a day, do the right tasks, that's what makes you successful. That's it. Elon Musk time blocks. Mark Zuckerberg time blocks. I have alarms set up on my phone that go off every few hours in case I'm off task, right? So when you said that about the text messages and whatnot, that's what's wrong with people. The text messages, the emails, the Facebook messages, the Instagram DMs, so on and so forth. This has created a behavioral loop, right? There's a difference between focused attention and fragmented attention. When you check this thing, and I go from my text messages to my DMs to my email to whatever next thing it is that I'm going to, I am creating a behavioral loop of fragmented attention. That particular behavioral loop is now implemented throughout my life. So I can't even pay attention to watching something for a particular amount of time. And this is what's happening now to society. And I feel bad. And it's happening especially to the younger generation. And I feel very bad because the learning curve is going to shift because this behavior loop's already been adapted. You're already in it, right? But when you unplug off of this thing for a while, that's when you gain more focused attention, right? When you, instead of typing, when I work on projects, I will write them. And then I'll have somebody transfer it, I'll transfer it to the digital side. But my thoughts are so much more clear on a white piece of paper than they are if I were to just do it on this thing.
I work with an assistant. I leave my phone down on my desk, and then I have them spitball whatever things are on my task list, and I give them exactly what I want to do. We turn off the internet, you reduce the ability to anybody communicate with you, and when you want to do your communications, you block out time for that too. Mm-hmm. And that works out so much better in your day because you're less anxious about it, and most things can wait.
I think that's what people need to learn. Like, if I can give you any value, you know, from this podcast, like, besides all the business stuff, like, you need to learn focus attention. Like, how do I focus myself? How do I pay attention to certain things? You know, that's what you need to. You have to figure out, like, what are the tasks that are actually meaningful and what are the tasks that are not. Like you said, a lot of the stuff doesn't add value. It's like, hey, Jim came to the gym. Jim came over yesterday. He was sweating from the gym. He had yellow shorts on. I don't give a fuck. You know, I don't like small talk. I don't like talking about people. You know the old adage, you know, it's like smart people talk about ideas. Average people talk about events. Stupid people talk about other people. I hate people that talk about other people. I don't hang out with the latter.
I mean, actions speak a lot louder than words. I don't really care what most people talk about what they can do. I want to see what they can actually do.
Even a talk, even a word changes somebody's day. Even a smile changes somebody's day. It's such a minuscule thing. And it changes your day. Like, I don't even want to hear this shit. I don't even like those type of words around me. Like, hey, so-and-so came here, did so, like, I'm not in that conversation. It gets to an extent, man. It gets to an extent, you know, especially when you're dealing with some of these large companies and some of my investments in these companies. I tell my team, like, I only want to have macro thoughts. I do not want to have micro thoughts, right? A macro thought is when you're working on a business. A micro thought is when you're working within a business. Right? Steve Jobs, there's a funny story, it's actually in his book. Steve Jobs, when Steve walked around campus and there was somebody that said hi to him in the elevator, like, you were not allowed to talk to Steve when he walked around the campus because he was lost in his own mind. Okay?
Yeah.
This girl said hi to him, she got fired.
It's so funny.
I mean,
it's not worth it because realistically, you only have so much attention in your mind for any given thing. Like one of the things that a lot of people criticized Mark Zuckerberg initially is like, why does this dude wear the same outfit every day? It's a decision. If you remove a lot of those decisions from your life, you can focus on other things.
Yeah, yeah. And people are like, oh, was Steve Jobs an asshole for doing things like that? I'm like, he's not an asshole. Think about it this way. Because of maybe her talking to him, you know, you might have not had this mineral glass on your phone. You might have not had 6 threads in the screw on the bottom of your phone. That's how intricate he was to design. That's on a different level of things, you know? That's all he's thinking about. He gave up his life for this, man. People speak so ill of Steve, and, you know, if you read up on Steve or if you watch any of his videos, it's like, dude, he gave up his life for us, like, for this. This has changed your life on a very mass scale. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about leaving a legacy. And I would argue that there's nobody that's left a legacy like this.
How many millions, if not billions, of people carry this in their
I go to Asia, and I go to Asia where we built those water projects, and they're sitting there on their smartphones.
It's a trip. There are homeless people begging on the streets that have
this. That's crazy, man.
It's a trip. There are people in jail cells that now have iPhones. It's crazy how gnarly that this piece of technology is expanded into every facet, every culture, every third world country.
I think we can all only aspire to leave a legacy like that.
And what's even crazier is growing up, computers that I had in my whole family's house had less ability to store information than what's in my pocket right now.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? Your first computer that you probably had in your home stores a fraction of what you probably even save in your contacts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a trip what you're able to accomplish. Now, one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was reading up on like some of the stuff about you is fail fast, hire fast, fire fast. A lot of people just take way too long in their business process. How did you go about developing that mentality of just moving things along instead of just stagnating?
Patience has ran thin. You know, dealing with so many projects, we've been through so many businesses. It's just about, that's the only way to do it. This is about failing faster. This is about scaling faster. You know, that's the only way to succeed because you learn from your failures and then you move on. No idea comes out fully formed. Nothing. Not this show, not any business you're building, not any of the businesses we've built, not Facebook, not Apple, not Steve's iPhone, nothing comes out fully formed. So you have to implement, you know, as soon as you learn something, you implement that particular strategy and you move on. And if you failed, then you see why you failed and you learn from that, then you move on. Adaptability, dude. This is about pivots. You know how many fucking apps those guys made? What's this, Roxio? The Angry Birds guys? 51 apps before they hit Angry Birds. That was it. That was the last one. They were about to throw in the towel and they hit.
And that's key. Like even this podcast, the story behind it that I was telling you a little bit about is it's a coyote howling at the moon, and it's New Hollywood. Hollywood's a city where a lot of people are first-generation immigrants from Chicago, New York, these big cities. Some of them were mobsters, some of them were legitimate business people, but they formed very unusual relationships and friendships. They invested in each other's businesses, and those businesses had an initial idea and they had to adopt, just like a coyote. Coyotes work well in packs. They work well alone. They're omnivores.
Yes.
They can survive eating garbage, but they can also feast when they need to. And I think that's what the modern day entrepreneur needs to do is you got to be willing to pick up 100 phone calls and get on 100 phones. And you got to be able to demonstrate your product and learn what works, what doesn't work, and take the emotions out of that feeling of your idea is great. Take that criticism, pivot, and move on.
No idea is great because no idea comes out fully formed. Like, that's what I argue with some of these entrepreneurs and like the startup guys. I was like, listen, your idea is an idea, you know? It's not fully formed yet. It'll develop. It's a baby. It's a baby. Babies develop. Babies change. Babies adapt to different things. Babies grow up. Babies have different, different tendencies. And you really have to know that. You have to know the tendencies that you're, of your consumer. Your consumer might change. Shit.
I think it's your team having that discourse, that internal discourse about the things that people don't agree on to create the best end product.
Yeah. Hiring faster, firing faster. Scaling faster, failing faster. Because that's what leads you to growth. And then it eventually leads you to success.
I mean, every person is really defined by the successes that they've had. The failures in the gym. If you're a boxer, you got to get knocked out a couple times before you learn, hey, if I don't do this, I'm going to get socked in my chin. I'm going to be passed out on the ground. I'm going to look like a schmuck. So I got to keep my right hand up.
Exactly.
So one thing I like to do with every successful entrepreneur is you've had a lot of successes. We covered a couple of them. What are some of your failures and what are the lessons that you've learned from them and been able to move forward?
This is an interesting question. One of the failures, man, I'll tell you. So like after the jersey things did really well, we got into, there was a trend of custom made products, right? And we started this website called Custom Made Gear, and we were all over because we just came off smoking hot off of the jersey rip. So now we're like XXL Vibe, remember Vibe? XXL Vibe, Source, everywhere. It's custom made gear, custom made gear, custom made gear. It was all the rappers, all these artists wearing whatever custom thing is of themselves. So like Young Jock's in the video, is going down. We did those shirts. We did Chris Brown's videos. We did all this stuff. So it's all this custom clothing and whatnot. So we're like, awesome. We have all this like traffic and we have all this advertisements to run the traffic. We got into the business of custom made clothing, custom made anything, custom made gear. You can, and it was a business that I will never, ever in my life enter again because the consumer never knows what they want. The consumer wants themselves on a shirt with the one eyebrow up like The Rock and my beard half shaven off, even though I have a full beard. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on today? Like, you think we have enough time to do this shit for you? I'll never get into that business. I think custom anything is the worst business to be in because the ROI isn't there. The consumer never knows what they want. Here's something interesting. With the iPhone, they were like, why is it only coming out? Why don't you have it come out in colors, right? Never released it in colors because Steve said that if I were to give you over 3 options, you would not know what you want.
You get overloaded.
You get overloaded. And that goes for, anything. I think if I'd give anybody like 3 options on even any particular product, even like espresso, right? You would get overloaded and you wouldn't know. Right?
Do you know what one of my number one pet peeves is? When people want to meet with me, they say, let's meet up sometime or let's do something or I'll let you know.
Jesus.
Give me an exact time because my life is way too busy to do a maybe, a sometime, and don't put it in my court unless you're ready to be available when I want it to be available.
Exactly.
If you want to meet with me, tell me 3 or 4 times or one time that works for you, and I'll say yes or no, and I'll counter.
Yeah. There's an interesting case study, Ash. It was, you remember those boom boxes? I don't know if you remember this, but there's these old boom boxes that TCF Bank and all these banks used to give out. As soon as you opened up a bank account, they would give out these boom boxes. So they did extremely well. So they were like, okay, we're gonna start releasing these in different colors, you know. So they were getting into the college sector, they were getting into the college market. So I said, okay, let's go ahead and run some demos, do some activations on college campuses, and we'll do those study groups and see what happens. So they had all these college kids come out, they, do these study groups, and they're like, hey, we're releasing these in different colors. What do you guys think about it? I was like, oh my God, we love them. We love the yellow ones, the red ones, the green ones. Oh, it's the most amazing thing ever, right? Okay, cool. The study ends. They're like, hey, thank you guys for coming out. They're all in the back for you. All the boom boxes are in the back for you. Please grab one on the way out. Which one do you think every single person grabbed?
Probably the basic black or white one.
The black one. That's it. The humans don't know. That just goes to show you, like, consumers don't know what they want.
I mean, it's like when I consult for tech companies and their initial minimum viable product has 7 different options, 7 different types of accounts. Like, how are you guys planning on getting that? They're like, well, people want to pick. And I'm like, yeah, but how are you specifically? Like, well, we want you to help plug some of the celebrities that you work with onto it. And I'm like, but why would my celebrity want to do it? Do you have like a check for them to do this? And they're like, no, but like it's a big idea and revolutionize it. Oh my God. You really need to build the most simple funnel to get people into your system. Exactly. And then progressively, as you scale and build an audience, start fine-tuning what your consumer persona is based on the data, not just your opinions of what you think people want to do.
The opinion doesn't even matter. After you get to a certain point of data, after that data capitulates, it doesn't even, your opinion is out.
And that's what I tell even music artists. Music artists that ask me my opinion on music, I'm like, listen, I have my personal preferences, but at the end of the day, I'm the worst person to ask because I don't pay to go to a club. I don't pay to go to a concert. I go where my clients go or business sends me. The better person to ask is the fan. The person that's on the internet that's looking for new music. Yeah.
I mean, that's with anything, is especially with music, but that's with anything, any even piece of asset. If you get enough eyes on it, that people will react a certain way. Either they'll like it or either they won't. And it is what it is. That's how it chops down.
The market defines your ultimate success.
I will say though, I mean, when it comes to finding singles, when we deal with music artists, I've had a few music artists here and there. Like singles, you can define a single when you define a single.
That's formulaic. Yeah. Because a single and the chords and the progressions is very scientific. The way that the science of likability, how to get somebody to like you, is a specific pitch, tone, enunciation, body language that you use. How do you go about that? You're from Chicago originally. You bounced around. When you first got into the business world and you started making real money, you're in the $1 million bracket. You're meeting with very serious people. Did you change the way that you dressed? Change the way that you talked?
Nah, man. You always have to stay real to yourself, dude. Like, I'm a hustler from the streets. I talk a lot of different ways. But it's like, you cater. Dude, this is linguistics. You cater to whoever's watching this. I talk this way on this. If I'm on, like, Power 99 or Power 105, I'm going to talk a little bit different, right? This is about linguistics. It's about making people comfortable. People always ask me, like, how do you have these type of connects and things like that? It's just linguistics. It's about being relatable to your audience, right?
Authenticity.
Yeah, dude. If you speak the same way, to protect in this region that you do in this region, it probably won't work out to the extent that it would have.
I mean, the slang that I use in my day-to-day conversations back in Boston, where I'm from, is very different than the slang and the pitch and tone that I talk to somebody casually in LA versus an older producer. I think it's really just identifying what the needs are, what the scenario is, and how you succeed.
I will say this, and regardless of linguistics, what region you're in, who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, one thing that will trump all things, that one thing that trumps all things, that's knowledge. Your knowledge base. I bring that to every table that I talk at. I know who you are, and I know, what aspect you might come from as far as, let's say you do digital marketing. I bring all my CPLs and CPAs and how they convert and how the assets are built and how the funnels are built on the back end and how they're doing, and how the checkout process works, things like that. It's all about a knowledge base.
That's dope, dude.
That's what it is, dude. People are like, you say, sometimes I say like confidence will, make you successful. Confidence is one of the core keys to success. But how do you build confidence? I'm confident in what I say because I know my shit. Like, this is knowledge, dude. I'll rock your world on some knowledge. Like, that's it. I have to be sure, right? Especially like investing in all these companies or running all these companies, I have to be sure about what the hell I'm talking about. I'm gonna lose all my money. I'm gonna lose all my money. So even when, regardless of how big a company is, I try to go. Might sound weird, but I try to go. Like sometimes I used to go to the warehouse Because like I was like, why the hell are we paying $5.20 for shipping for each of these products? And why is it taking somebody 8 minutes to do this? Like, it can't be that hard. I went to the warehouse for 2 days straight. Not one of those days was I able to do a packaging of a product in 8 minutes of the particular products I'm talking about. That made me have such a high found respect for the person doing that, you know? Sometimes in business, you know, as the CEO, you might look down and be like, oh, well, I could have done that better. Shit, go
give
do it.
Give it a shot, yeah.
Go give it a shot. And I was like, Jesus, this is hard work. I was like, give him $6.20. Fuck the $5.20. You know, give him a raise. I was like, this shit is hard, dude.
Third-party logistics, man. 3PLs.
Yeah,
it's
3PLs.
Very intense, even preventing like loss prevention.
Yeah, but I go through that rigorous process. And that's when you ask me, like, how do I figure out like who I want to invest in and stuff? I go through most of that rigorous process. At least I try to dabble in all of it. So I have a feeling of, you know, why a strategy or why a particular part of that team might not be working at the same rate that the other part of the team is working. And you know, once you do it,
understand the why.
Understand the why, yeah. Understand the why of all aspects of the whole team, of the whole company. Understand the why of all of it. Don't just leave it up to somebody else.
I also think for me, a lot of times it's the unquantifiable values that certain core members bring, or the unquantifiable tasks that are getting done sometimes that really give that company its uniqueness.
Yeah. Such as what?
Such as like really like the spirit of that company, like little people that do like the smallest functions sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the receptionist being kind and just greeting every person. Mm-hmm. You can't really quantify her being nice as like a metric on like a score sheet, but I guarantee you that every person that encounters that person, that one word could make their day a little bit better. It could brighten it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the really little details that I'm very concerned on is how people treat other people in their organization.
Yes.
Because you're investing into each member on that team.
Yeah.
So if you got one middle manager that's just shitting on everybody on their team, you're fucked up. Like anytime that anybody that reports to me fails, that's a failure on my part. It's not necessarily a failure on anyone on my team. I have to be accountable and I have to be knowledgeable enough to either identify and fix that proactively, or they're not comfortable enough coming to me for a reason. And I think there's always like two sides of every story, and a lot of people need to be cognizant of that.
I will say this, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this, right? Or aspiring entrepreneurs. You know, becoming an entrepreneur, you watch me or you watch these guys, Gary or Ty and all this shit, and you watch all this stuff. This shit is not easy. Like, don't ever get it twisted. As to like the macro of maybe what Gary says or any of these guys, they just say very macro thoughts. When it comes down to the micro, buddy, oh man. You're talking about scaling out work processes. You're talking about having the right team. You're talking about a word. You just said a receptionist that might smile at you in a particular way that changes the culture of that company today, right? This is you know how many formulas go into creating the concoction of a successful company? That's the type of stuff that people need to learn. That's the type of stuff. That's the type of knowledge you need to acquire. Not just watching motivational videos. It's fucking great. You might be great. You might be greatly motivated. I would argue, how motivated are you? You know, we don't try to, and Zayd knows it. I always tell Zayd, like, we don't ever try to put out just motivational videos. I hope that when you watch this, you learn something from it. And not just on the macro side. I could be like, hey, it's great. We're having a fucking great day. We're pumped up. And yeah, doesn't matter, dude. Like, it's breaking down micro shit, man. This is about scaling a company. That's where it counts.
It's the actionable stuff. It's buying the domain on GoDaddy. It's building it using whatever tools you got.
This is about a kid calls my friend Alan Crow, right? Acquires this domain called ring.com, right? He's like, Alan's like, why do you want to buy this domain, ring.com? He's like, oh, my sister's house got robbed. I'm about to start making these doorbells with the camera on it. Okay. He buys a domain. This is about buying the domain, creating these doorbells because your sister's house got robbed with a camera on it, taking it to Shark Tank, getting it rejected as one of the stupidest ideas that's been on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban doesn't believe that 84% of burglars ring the doorbell before they rob the house. Guess what? That fact was actually true, and he sells to Amazon 2 years later for $1 billion. This is about that. Right? And the story sounds great, right? The story, this part of the story, it's like, oh my God, what an incredible success story. Fuck yes. I'm going to buy like a 4-letter domain. I'm going to sell it a year later for $1 billion. You know how much shit went into this part of it? It's just not this and this.
The credit card debt, the sleepless nights,
Yes.
the failures of inventory, products not working.
Jesus, the schematics, the engineering, the products, the prototypes, the distribution, the process. That's where it counts, buddy.
Entrepreneurship is not as sexy as these motivational videos make it seem.
It's not. I would argue with people that you think it's cool to become an entrepreneur. The question is not, do you want to become, the question is not, will you be a successful entrepreneur? The question is, do you want to become an entrepreneur? You want to do this? You want to do these 18-hour days?
And do you want to sacrifice not having free time to watch TV?
Do you want to sacrifice family time, man? My son's 9, and it's sad. Like, I don't get to spend that much time with him. And I have money. Right? I can fly wherever right now. And even then, I don't get to spend as much time with them as I like. So it's like, do you want to impact the world on a level that you can, that you believe that you will actually change it? That you believe that you will actually change it with a passion? Do you believe that? That's when the answer is yes. I want to become an entrepreneur for that reason. Right? Think about it. I'm taking away from my son's time to impact humans' lives on a very broad or macro level.
So what's your intention? What's your one word? We talked about the My Intent bracelet. I got to know your word.
You read it?
Let's see. Purpose. Right?
It's purpose.
All right. Because that ties in perfectly.
Everything I do in life is with the purpose, man. Otherwise, I don't do it. This is actually one of the first ones. I told you Chris made this one first. Yeah, purpose. That's it.
That's super key. Now, one thing that a lot of people talk about, and I think it's from 2 movies really make me think about it. One is The Network with Justin Timberlake, and one is with, what's it called? Austin Powers with Minnie B. It's like, I want $1 million. $1 million is what a lot of people said is their goal for a business. $1 million isn't cool anymore. It's $1 billion. How do you take a business to $100 million?
How do you take a business to $100 million? Usually you have to take on a lot of funding. There's so much that you have to do on the key core grounds, I would say, just to break it down. I mean, on the key core grounds, you have to have like the right board of advisors and the right board of directors, right? Because you have to have advisors that fit into your particular sector, your particular niche that have already done it or have done something similar to it, right? So the things that they've failed at, you learn from, okay? So
improves your speed, obviously.
Yeah. So like, for example, we acquired Pregs.com. We're about to make it, we're literally going to make it, think about like Thrive Market, for example. We're going to make it that in the pregnancy and baby sector and the baby products. I don't have knowledge of that sector, and I know that. You know what I do? I read 1 million case studies. I hire the right guys. So I'm talking to like the VP of Bye Bye Baby, the old VP. I'm talking to these guys that have this type of knowledge that we can talk about. I'm talking to the guys from Thrive Market to see exactly what fit in where to make them as successful as they are, right? And you take on the right funding rounds. And I tell people, I wouldn't say that I really take on money for some of these companies, but when I do take on money, I always take on live money. I never take on dead money because I don't have the fucking time to be on the phone with you, George, explaining why the fuck this strategy isn't working because you don't know about it and you're concerned about your $1 million that you invested. You think I have time for that shit? You want me to actually do something with the $1 million, or you want me to talk to you and explain it to you? So when I say live money and dead money, there's a huge difference. Dead money is just taking on money, calling up any VC firm. They think the idea is great. Okay, cool. We're going to give you the money. All right, thank you. Have a nice day. Live money is like you're playing too. And you know your shit about whatever it is that I'm doing. You know your shit about this sector, right? So you have some strategies that you can bring to the table. Because if you don't, I don't need your money. Doesn't make any sense.
You're a knowledgeable expert. You're a partner more than just dead money.
You're a partner. Because people, think about it, man. Some of these like capital firms, all they do is they take on other people. They actually take on other people's money. And they're like, hey, this looks like a good investment. This guy looks cool. Let me just, and they don't have that type of knowledge. And that's crazy.
It's the long tail effect. That's all they're betting on.
It's a long tail effect. And then they go to say things like, oh, well, anybody who bets in Silicon, you lose 9 out of 10 times. It's great. No, fuck no. What the fuck? What if you lost fucking 5 out of 10 times? then it'd make a much broader difference. You lose because you're investing in shit that you don't have any knowledge on. You can't help these guys.
Right? You gotta know what businesses you're in.
Yes. Like why a company shouldn't be diversified. I would say that a capital firm shouldn't be diversified as to the fact that like we're in every single sector. Like we're running Chipotle's, we're running watch companies, we're running apparel, and we're producing baby heart monitors. It's like, what is going on right now? Obviously, on the core side of things, the strategies and the work processes might be similar. But on the other side of things, you know, on the broad side, it might be the same, but on like the micro side, it's probably not. So it's like how much shit, you know?
Yeah. No, I definitely get that, man. I think that flows really well. Now, one of the things I like to cover with a lot of people, and one thing that you've mentioned a couple of times, is processes and tools. What are some processes and tools that every entrepreneur should be using?
Slack, Asana, Trello.
Slack, Asana, Trello?
Slack, Asana, Trello. Yeah.
Sounded like a hook of a song.
Yeah, there it is. Slack, Asana, Trello. Shout out to Slack, Asana, Trello. There's so many actually coming out of Silicon Valley now, you know. There's so many that I could go through. Like, even like with this websites, you know, like you said, Crazy Egg, you know, heat maps. There's so many tools, dude. I have a list of tools that we use, and it's fucking
Dude, my favorite is just sometimes super basic, which is Google Cal. I schedule out my whole day in Google Calendar.
Oh,
including when I take my lunch, when I
Google.
do calls with my girls.
Yeah. Slack, Asana, Trello, Google Drive. We all know that. I've like outlawed Dropbox at the agency. Like we do not do that. Dropbox actually deleted one time like 2.5 years worth of work. I was like, I will sue the fuck out of you. I'm not playing any games. It took them like over 3 weeks to recover their server that was down. I was like, are you crazy? I was like, I'm done with this. Then we went to Google. Pretty much I would argue that our whole company is backed up off Google Drive. And some of my teammates, like that one over there, are like, man, Dropbox, you know, Dropbox is just killing it. I was like, Facebook uses Google servers. Like Amazon like used to use Google. Are you crazy? Like these are the biggest server guys. That's what they pride themselves on.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
go with where people
those guys. Those guys' servers aren't going down. If those guys' servers go down, everything is done.
I had a conversation with somebody that was trying to plan an event, and like, you know, you've done all these big parties for all these massive companies, like Playboy and all these big celebrities hire you to throw their parties. I'm thinking of this. I'm like, why are you thinking of this crazy idea? He's like, well, I just don't want to do it the same way that everybody else does it. And I'm like, there's a reason why everybody starts off at the same point.
Yes.
It just works smarter.
Yeah.
Not as hard. You can work a lot smarter, get things done.
There's a huge
Use
difference.
that formula and figure out where you want to innovate in a smart way. Which I think is very, very key. Now, one of the investments I think is pretty cool, not sure if you can talk about it, so let us know if you can't, is Spotify. When did you first get into Spotify?
We got in on one of the early rounds, man. And, you know, Johan's fund is the one that invested in it. So I was invested in the fund, and then they invested in the Spotify. But when we came on board on Spotify, this is way back in the day. What is this, like 2011, I want to say. Spotify their team was amazing. And they had such a broad vision, and they had such a large, cohesive vision, which they all communicated. Their communication was incredible. I don't even know the word to express. Like so detailed and incredible. Like their strategies broke down in such a way, and they just had a vision, man. And that vision was so large, and they were just gaining. They were gaining market share, and it was just going. And that throttle never let up in IPO.
And what's crazy about it is now there's auxiliary businesses around Spotify.
Yeah.
Like there are companies that literally help people take their music and just post it on Spotify.
Yeah.
And then there's labels that are spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year for Spotify promotion on certain playlists.
I'll tell you, because I think I was the last interview before Spotify IPO'd, if I'm not mistaken. I was either the last or second to last. And that's what I was saying on the interview. I was like, this was a data play. You know, I loved that aspect of it. I was like, these are the only guys that are collecting data on this level, right? We know exactly what you're listening to, where you're listening to it, and why you're listening to it. You know, the number one playlist on Spotify is barbecue playlists. So what type of ads do we serve people at barbecues? It's very easy, plug and play. But the fact to know that, and then to see, you can even go into the data as to see a person's emotion, and by the way they listen to a particular playlist, or what order that playlist might be, or what playlist they're listening to, right? And you read those emotions and you can serve the ad sets that would pertain to those emotions. For example, if you're listening to R. Kelly's playlist all day long, I would serve you condom ads.
Yeah. If you're listening to sad songs, you're probably depressed. So like Prozac.
Yeah.
Or like Calm, the meditation app.
Yeah. And that was a very, very interesting play because nothing defines your emotion, I would say, not as much as music does. So that's why it was just a great play overall.
That's a trip, dude. That's advanced a lot now. Now it's video plays.
Buddy, that Instagram partnership, oh man. That was I was like, oh thank God. That was an amazing hit. You know, we're up, I think, I want to say like 38% since IPO day. 38 to 42% if I'm not mistaken.
That's a trip.
You know what was crazy about that interview because it was live. They ran a screen over my face because it was live. Because the lady was like, so are you selling today? And I was like, don't fucking ask me that on live TV. I was like, no, I'm not selling today for one. But let's just say that I had said yes, we would have tanked. It's like, you do not ask me that on live TV. After, like 30 minutes, we're going IPO. They're like, oh, for the main guys, he said he's selling. Fuck this shit.
Yeah.
That would have been a trip. But that IPO was very interesting also on the back end because you weren't issued, it wasn't issued common shares. So you could only buy shares from us.
Okay.
The people that already held it. That's also why that led to the success that it did.
That's unique.
It wasn't issuing just shares out just to,
Normally it's usually around some dilution.
Yep.
So that was
it literally just, I mean, all that happened was it literally went like our shares around the private market and then it went to the public market. Bang. That's it.
But even little things like that make such a big difference.
Huge difference, dude.
Huge
difference. Valuation's like 10 billion up.
Yeah. So that's a trip, dude.
In a matter of days.
So what's got you excited now? What are some projects that you're working on?
Oh man, there's so many projects. You know what's crazy, man? I always do like a main, like besides like the investments and stuff, I always have like a main like investment project, and I have like different passion projects. Like we're just working with this kid Sprato. We just signed this kid Sprato. He has this Wristwork song coming out. You know, I love the music side of things, the passion. Just recently started getting into movies, so this will be a very interesting one. Doing a very, very interesting movie, which is called Digital Detox, which we kind of spoke about, but I'm not going to hit too much of what it is. So that's one. And then we just acquired pregs.com. Like I said, we want to build that marketplace out to be one of the largest, pregnancy marketplace. And the reason we did that, and this is going to go back to data now, because you're probably looking at me and like, why is this guy in a pregnancy? What the hell does he know about pregnancy or like baby products? Which I don't, right?
I mean, you got a kid, 9 years old.
Yeah. To that extent,
you know about pregnancy.
To that extent, I definitely do. One of Amazon's biggest niches, even after drop shipping died, is baby products. I have guys doing 12, 14 million a year off of selling baby products. It's like, okay, let's go. Number one, man. Number one. So I was like, that's it. We're going to take this part of it away from Amazon. And we already have a lot of the strategies set up. I mean, I've been scaling it for a while. But we closed out on pregs.com like last week. We were in talks for like a month and a half. And it's about to be a hell of a rip. So it'll be very interesting.
Oh, that's dope, dude. And where can people follow you online?
At I am Fam, Instagram, Twitter at I am Fam. You can just Google my name. You see it everywhere. It's the easiest way. But Instagram is definitely probably like one of the fastest way to get in touch with me. LinkedIn is private. I don't like a million people adding me on LinkedIn and then pitching me. But yeah.
The worst part on LinkedIn is sometimes people will call me and they're like, so somebody hit me up on LinkedIn. I see that they're your friend. They said that you speak very highly of them. I'm like, how do they not think that you're going to reach out to me for a reference when you drop my name?
Right. Yeah. No, but Instagram is it, dude. Here, I'll tell you something before I get off this thing. Instagram has now reached a capitulation point that we've never seen. I wish that I would have invested in Instagram. We did it. But we've made a lot of money through Instagram. Instagram's, the way a platform is measured, regardless of whether you're talking about Spotify, you're talking about, Apple Music, you're talking about Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whoever the hell you might be talking about. It's not measured just on subscribers. People think that on the front end. People are like, oh, well, we have these many subscribers, it's going to crush it. It's measured on TRR rate, right? It's time retention rate.
Yeah.
Instagram has now excelled past all platforms, including YouTube. And that's fucking mind-blowing. People are going to Instagram and just being lost. They never come off the platform. They're gone. They're gone in their friends' lives. They're gone in celebrities' lives. They're just gone into some other space where that's it. They're trapped now, and they don't ever get off. And that signals... That's a major shift.
Dude, walk around any office. Any office you'll view in a desk, a phone under a thing. People are just scrolling all day long. If you get on a train or any public transport, people are on their phone.
All day long, man.
And you find out a lot of times if you look at the Explore feature, you want to find out what people are into, go to their Explore page on their iPhone. Mm-hmm. Explore shows you exactly the type of content that they're engaging with, what they're viewing, and it gives you a very good idea of who people are.
Exactly. Yeah. That was mind-blowing to me, dude. Like the TRR rate of Instagram being higher than YouTube is just... I don't even know what to say.
Low involvement,
about
though.
That, dude.
It's a lot easier uploading something onto Instagram than it is to YouTube.
It's just a paradigm shift. It's like people are they're literally lost in their friends' lives. Like, think about it. Instagram shouldn't have beat YouTube. It would have beat all of the platforms, and I would have been like, okay, yeah, we all saw that coming. But when it beat YouTube, I was like, this is a video platform. You're beating the largest video platform. People go to YouTube to watch long form videos, right? And Instagram is doing it with jack shit. Instagram is doing it with very, very small pieces of content. Doing it with photos, 60-second videos. IGTV is not doing so well. But just that, 15-second stories, right? As soon as they launched that, that's when the TRR rate was like and gone, and we're out of here. And it's all systems
Have you been
go.
to the headquarters in Menlo Park?
Yeah.
What's trippy to me is out of like the 48 to 50 buildings that Facebook has, Instagram is at 1, and I think it's right now expanded to 1.5 buildings.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Do more with less. A lot of people are like, I need a massive team. And I tell every aspiring entrepreneur all the time, do what you can with what you have and then expand once you've built it beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, Instagram is a beast that like I've never seen. I tell all my friends, I even tell my uncles that are like 50, I'm like, listen, if you're not on Instagram, I don't even understand what's going on. And I don't tell you this for any reason, but like you ask me about my life and shit, you could just capture it on Instagram, It's literally like if I were to post a story, which I will post after I get off this thing, it will go to 10 to 12,000 people in a matter of, 16 to 17 hours. Sometimes we peak out at like 15, but 15,000 people hit it one time. That's like, hey, this is what I did today. Thank you. Have a nice day. I don't have time to do you think I could text 15,000 people? Probably not. Or like all these people. So
mass push strategies.
It's a mass push strategy, man. But I'm telling you, dude, it's a paradigm shift. Like with that TRR rate, it's just, I don't even know what's going to happen next. It's mind blowing to me.
That's a trip. All right, everybody, I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the New Hollywood Podcast. It's me, your host, Ashwin Jacob. You can follow me at Ashwin Jacob. It's the New Hollywood Podcast, so it'll be everywhere from Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, and any platform that comes out in the future that we can share video and audio on. So thanks for tuning in, and look forward to bringing some more amazing guests your way.